This video will talk about the third-tier alcohols, the operations that make them, plus bottling operations, and how you can get booze barrels without making them yourself. There's a lot of overlap, so I've put all of it in the same video. Strap in. First, we'll look at making bottles in the makeshift stills. Then we'll look at how to make the barrels in the small distillers. You'll get the first skill once a second-tier op comes online. All makeshift stills cost between $3,500 and $5,000. Vodka is cheapest, whiskey most expensive. Then it's 12 to 15 lumber and bricks, and either 15 pipes or 12 sheet metal. Last up are the barrels, 20 barrels for brandy. Whiskey takes 10 steel barrels, rum 16. Last but not least, it's 20 for small barrels for vodka. If you build a makeshift still, you'll soon get the mission allowing you to build the corresponding small distiller. If you don't build any, don't worry, you still get the skill missions. The small distillers cost between $5,000 and $7,500. Again, whiskey is the most expensive. The building materials are the same as before, except you need more of almost everything. Not unexpected. We'll talk more about the bottling operation shortly, but here's how you build it. Only costing $1,500, 10 lumber and 6 pipes, it's cheap to set up. The skill you need is bundled with all the small distiller skills. The only expansion options for the makeshift stills are steam sanitizer, industrial filters, and production tracking. I don't tend to build makeshift stills because they're resource heavy. Sure, I can spare the first-tier booze or neutral alcohol, but getting up to 60 corn syrup barrels every 5 turns, when a business might only sell 5 at a time, forget about it. Besides, there are other much easier ways of getting hold of third-tier bottles, namely freight train stations. When you have unlocked the third-tier ops, the cargo trains can bring in bottles from the countryside. You get 150 bottles of booze delivered to a building of your choice every time you do the mission. You can do several in one turn, depending on action points and carrying capacity. Which booze you get depends on which month you're in. See the train station link in description, because it's not a predictable pattern. If this guy had had 10 bottles and $1,000 on him, he would have received bottled vodka. Bottling operations get you up to 121 third-tier bottles every month. And fortunately, this number doesn't change when you level up the manager. All you need are bottles, bottle labels, and a booze barrel. It's more cost-effective to run than a handful of third-tier ops, and you can easily stock 2 or 3 speakeasies from one bottling plant. Note that it will only work on 1 barrel at a time, in a specific order: whiskey, brandy, rum, vodka. If you have more than one of the same barrel, it will go through that stack before moving on to the next. That's why I only keep 1 of each in stock at a time, and keep the rest stockpiled in a nearby building. To run bottling plants, you need booze barrels. So how do you get those? One option is to make them yourself in a small distillery. Each of the options has a couple of recipes for making the barrels, so go for the one with the ingredient you have the most of. All 4 options require barrels. They do all require a lot of that one ingredient though, so I tend to get my booze barrels through other means. Should you happen to play Detroit, there's a chance you can buy barrels in Canada. That's the only map where you can buy the booze barrels from businesses. If you have unlocked the booze barrel skill, you can import them from a passenger train station between May and August every year. And fortunately, it was still April in this example, so the second option in the list is grayed out, but that's the one you want. For $1,500 each time, you get to choose between 5 brandy, 6 rum, 6 vodka, or 3 whiskey barrels. Repeat as many times as you want. If you have shadow government DLC and have 12 influence to spare, you can enact the police transportation contract in January. For every politician in your pocket, 3 third-tier booze barrels of your choice will go missing from police custody and end up in yours. For free. Let's just say there are reasons I invest heavily in elections whenever I can. All you do is go to the ward offices of your politician friends and select the top option. You then choose which booze you want and where you want it delivered to. You can do this once every month or so. This is why I don't tend to make my own booze barrels. It's so much quicker and easier to get them from the trains or politicians. If you want to sell any booze barrels, find a longshoreman's hall. They are the only ones buying. Despite being a dockworkers union, the hall can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be close to water. You will need someone to introduce you to them before you can do business. Selling them a barrel will fulfill a legacy goal, but we'll talk about that in another video. The barrels fetch between $800 and $2,000 each, so if you find a stash in an abandoned safe house, don't have a bottling plant yet, and need the cash, selling some could be a good idea. You can only sell one of the third-tier bottles in a small speakeasy, depending on which one you build. To sell all 4, you need a supper club or higher. That means a dance hall, jazz club or fine dining restaurant. There are some businesses here and there who also want to buy, at around $30 a case. Those are the third-tier options, so that's all for now. Check the website for more details. And remember, you can't be half a gangster.